Welcome, welcome, welcome back to the Awakening Potential Show. It's your gateway to the extraordinary. I'm your host, Karen Rudolf, and I'm here to support you in stepping into your sassy confidence, your classy wisdom, and your bold transformations, your transformational brilliance. Because awakening your potential isn't just about moment. It's about a movement. Here we dive into powerful stories, soul-stirring tools, and game-changing strategies that spark transformation in your life, in your work, and in the world around you. So grab a notebook, open your heart, and let's light the inner spark. Today, I'm beyond excited to introduce someone who truly embodies the journey. Our guest, M. Curtis McCoy. May I call you
Karen,
Curtis?
absolutely. Yeah, I actually had a radio show in Las Vegas that I'd flown out to be a guest on, and the host introduced me, real great introduction, and then he said, "Today we've got M. Curtis McCoy on the show, just flew in from Grand Junction, Colorado. My first question: What is this? What does the M stand for?" And I said, "What stands for my first name, Ed? That's the initial for my first name, Ed." And then I was just being funny, but I think I hurt the show host's feelings there, and it took a little while to recover from that. But yeah, I told everybody, friends and family call me Curtis, and you can too.
Okay, well, I like to ask first and foremost. So, especially since you have it in print, so everywhere that I like to at least be in sync with you. Like Curtis, I love what I like about you is first and foremost your heart. You have so much that you offer, and Curtis is the founder and editor of the. Editor-in-chief, excuse me, of the Newswire Magazine. It's a media platform that features top entrepreneurs, authors, and thought leaders. Needless to say, I was a part of it, and it was such an incredible journey because he really supported me as an individual building my powerful brand through strategic media exposure, high impact interviews. And I was thrilled to be on a billboard campaign, which was so unexpected, and it was just so great. So thank you. Your work has been featured on Amazon Fire TV, and Curtis has spoken on iconic stages like Caesar's Palace. And he's a consult for the United States Federal Trade Commission, offering expertise on branding and communication. And communication is so key for me. I love the conversation because it's not something that we're taught in school. So tell us a little bit more. Well, first off, warm welcome to you. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks so much, and I appreciate you for making me sound like such a rock star. I need to hire you
You
to do
are
all
a
my
rock star.
introductions.
You are a rock star. In my world, you're a rock star.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what got you started? Like, go back in time to childhood, or there's usually a connection between something you played with or did in childhood that inspires many to do if they're living their passion, it brings you forward to today. Is that something that holds true for you?
Yeah, I figured out at a pretty early age that if you solve problems for people, there was always somebody trying to make money with a new some kind of widget or junk. You see this with a lot of coaches and consultants, and trying to sell coaching to. They've got no client that either can pay them or that cares about the solution. But if
Right.
you solve a product, have a product, service, or solution that solves somebody's problem, they know they've got a problem, they can afford to pay you, and they want the solution. All you've got to do is brand yourself and become the solution that shows up when they're searching for that knowledge, and it's pretty easy to keep landing clients.
Yeah, but what got you started in it? Like, go back, like how did you know like you were on task?
So as far as the personal branding stuff, I actually went to school for aircraft electronics, aviation electronics. Got
Well,
certified through NASA for ultra high reliability soldering. Had a lot of stuff like that. Realized pretty early that I did not want to be laying in the belly of airplanes or working on hotel slot machine, casino slot machines and stuff. But again, I just kept seeing I love solving problems. So anytime, just fresh out of college, I'd have a job and I'd come in and I'd look at some system that was in place, look at their SOPs, and going, these are things that we could cut out or modify that would massively improve profit, cut down on work, cut down on problems, whatever. And I always had a hard time fitting in the workplace because of that. When a manager would see a young employee with the solution to these problems, a lot of times that was kind of seen as competition. I just wanted the place to run better, but I had that over and over with running everything from a telecommunications company to a pharmaceutical company up in Denver,
Hmm.
where just saw stuff that could massively be improved. And so worked for a pharmaceutical company for a year and a half or so and kept seeing these things where I was telling the owner, you could explode this business if you just change these few things. And I couldn't get the owner to listen and stuff. So I started my own white label pharmaceutical company, manufacturing bioidentical injectable research peptides. We
Wow.
started a cosmetic medical laser clinic in Evergreen. And like I said, we're manufacturing white label peptides.
Hmm.
But that again is a business that I didn't, it's a good business to not be involved in now because there are so many problems with regulations and stuff. But again, just solving problems. I after the pharmaceutical company, I went and worked with a cell phone company, or cell phone guy that owned some cell phone stores.
Hmm.
Ended up uh, went along with that. Survived brain cancer. Went into launching my own cell phone store as I was recovering from brain cancer, and then
Wow.
turned that into multiple stores, and finally became a mobile virtual network operator with over 250,000 customers monthly hitting our website. But again, it was just if you find a solution, find a problem, solve it, and charge a reasonable price. All you've got to do is become known as the person that has that solution, and doesn't matter what the industry is. You can keep, you never be wanting for business if you are solving a problem at a good price.
Absolutely. So I'm curious because I know myself, and this is probably why I so relate to you, because I consider myself a creative problem solver. But I played with manipulative puzzles. I didn't like the flat ones, but I was always curious playing with the manipulative ones. And today it's like I always ask myself, what can I build with that? And today I'm like, yeah, like I've traveled globally doing creative problem solving things. And so I'm curious, did you have a similar experience? Ooh, excuse me.
You mean as far as playing with stuff when I was young? I I typically would build. We grew up in a pretty, um, I guess on my dad's side was a pretty rough upbringing, a lot of abuse and stuff. Um, and no money, basically just dirt poor. My dad made good money, but the wife and kids did not. That was my dad had money, but you don't, kind of a thing. And so
Right,
we ended up making a lot of our own toys and stuff, digging holes and
right.
built some really cool forts, stuff, digging underground, making trenches and just fun stuff like that. But I think that was a good thing looking back, growing up without having all the toys and the junk that
Exactly.
kids have, be able to figure out how to take a take a stick and scrub it on a piece of rock until you can get it rounded down to a point and make stuff
Yeah,
with bow and arrow and some of
yeah,
that kind of stuff was I think actually a blessing not being so inundated with too many toys that we can't figure out how to do stuff
absolutely.
ourselves.
Yeah, myself included. I mean, we didn't have a lot. We had to use our imagination, and that's what I'm seeing is so missing in today's world. It's like I go out there and I see at restaurants or wherever now, and it's like all these kids are on the electronics. They have little iPads for kids now that are like with kid frames, and I'm looking at it like, where's the communication? What are you teaching
Yeah.
and I'm like here I mean, to each his own. That's not my thing because I'm seeing such a gap in communication skills with the youth now, and it's sad. It's saddened to me or going to a restaurant and seeing couples date night and they're both on
Yeah.
there. I was in
Yeah.
New York and I was sitting with my girlfriend and two people are there on a date and they're both on there and I was like, how do you make
Yeah.
it work?
You could have sat at home and tossed in a microwave pizza and sat on your phone and ignored each other for a whole lot cheaper the cost of that date. So we do the same thing with that. I'm actually getting married at the end of the week here,
I
but
know, it's
fiance and I
exciting.
have been doing that with the with cell phones where take it, it's not just turn it over where you can't see it on the table. Get it off the table, put it in your pocket, put it in the other room, something like that too,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
show that. I mean, even that
It's
when you
that.
sit down in a business meeting, if you've got a cell phone sitting on the table,
Yeah,
that is such a symbol that you're maybe waiting for a better
present.
offer. So
Yeah,
I think it's a good thing to just get the phones off the table and
I agree. I agree. That's one thing I do is that yeah, being a woman, having a purse, it's nice because I put it in the purse, out of sight, out of mind, and it's nothing that important. I can't wait, for a few more minutes or an hour, whatever it is. Yeah, sad, sad. Wow, you've got quite the background. It's definitely quite the background. So one of the things I heard you say, and of course I come from a nursing background, so what like me was brain cancer. Wow, and you were able to work through that, and it takes a lot of resilience, right? I'm sure rather than just the medical, as well as your own um, talking to yourself and the healing from within. How long did that take you? I mean, that must have been quite a journey for you as well?
yeah. So when I was in Denver, it had been a couple of years where I was having a seizure a week, couple seizures a week. Pretty soon it was 7 to 10 seizures a week,
Mm.
and I finally woke up. But like I said, I was running multiple companies as a young, 20-something-year-old kid. Was doing real well, and I'd have, we were sponsoring bodybuilding shows and MMA fights and different stuff where
Fascinating.
looked like I had the world by the horns there, and but I kept passing out and having seizures, and it was more and more frequently. And one day I woke up and I was in a coma twice, but I woke up one day and in Swedish Medical Center up in Denver, and the oncologist was in the room as I came out of the coma, had his hand on my mom's shoulder, and told her I will never communicate again. I will. He guarantees I'd be here less than 90 days. So he told her to make me. Not at the time. Remember, I'm bodybuilding, so
Right.
I was 252 pounds a day that they checked me in the hospital. Lean,
Mm.
6 pack, vein going up my abs at 252, and this doctor is told my mom that I'm gonna be dead in 90 days, and he was telling her to take me to Disneyland, try to make some good memories or something. I was so mad. If I could have stood up, I'd have punched the guy in the jaw. Like, I don't want to go to flipping Disneyland. I want to keep running my company and my companies, and you knock it off. Quit making my mom cry. But she had already taken quite a few different friends and family members and stuff. Her and my stepdad had taken these friends to Tijuana, Mexico, to a clinic called the Hoxie Biomedical Center,
Mhm.
which is, like I told you at the time, I owned a cosmetic medical laser clinic and a company manufacturing bioidentical injectable research peptides, pharmaceuticals.
Right. Uh,
So here I am in a medical background, owning a clinic that's manufacturing these peptides, and they're telling me to go to Tijuana, Mexico, to a clinic that is, you know, not American Medical Association approved stuff. Not, the treatments are not approved, but and the doctors at Swedish were warning us. It's dirty, it's unregulated, it's dangerous. It's, Mexico. You don't know what you're going to get. But my
right.
mom said, you guaranteed he's going to be dead in less than 90 days. What's the harm? What are we risking here?
Thank you,
And so I
Mom.
agreed to go just because I'm thinking, okay, if nothing else, at least my mom will feel like we tried.
Yeah.
Like, not a big deal. And so we ended up in Tijuana. And after the treatment, the first hour of treatment, they do this injecting vitamin B17, Laetrile, that actually
Mm.
comes from apricot pits. So they inject this B17, vitamin C, and different mixture in there. But an hour into it, I was getting memories back. I was having crazy flood of emotions, just a bunch of
Mm.
almost instantaneous healing. And after that first treatment, I hop, or let's say, I guess, I think it was the second day of treatment. I put my backpack on and jogged a couple miles back to the hotel instead of riding in their taxi. Yeah, pretty incredible. But I went from the ultimate skeptic on here's the medical treatments that I know, and then going to Tijuana because American oncologists had given us zero chance of survival. So
I know, well, we can have a whole thing on that coming from my nursing background to, this. I had this conversation with somebody today. I think I briefly shared with you earlier. You know, when I was doing my nursing, I so remember that, doctors are taught to treat symptoms. They're human beings, they're not God. But people who don't know what they don't know look up to physicians as if they're their end all be all. But they forget that there's more in the world that's available to them. You just really need to be your own advocate and seek. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time and place for all Western medicine. I mean, I'm case in point, I had a major accident in Costa Rica, and that was I don't speak Spanish. And yet I remember them telling me, even down there, there's a chance you won't be walking any longer. And I just remember my mind saying, your diagnosis doesn't have to be my prognosis. And
Yeah.
I was affirming myself, and I don't know if this was part of your experience, but I was affirming my body is healing every day in every way on a cellular level. My body is healing every day. And it was just became like root in me, and I believed it. And I'm walking, I'm dancing, I'm doing all sorts of things now. I mean, I'm not running races, nor am I riding my horse at the moment, but you know, I'm alive and walking and well. So, it's like you don't who are you going to listen to? It gets out to that, who are you going to listen to, right? So I'm so
Yeah. There's
grateful.
that mindset is so massively important. Actually, I'm driving one of my dream cars, and my vanity plate says "inspire." It's the word "inspire,"
I just
but it doesn't really have anything to do with the business where we're highlighting entrepreneurs and people that are crushing at life and business. But um,
yeah,
I have conversations with people about that a lot, where it's when you get what you think about the most. So whether that is
you bring
if you're
around.
surrounding yourself with successful people,
Yeah,
if the four people that you hang around with the most are
absolutely.
successful leaders who are crushing it in life and business, chances are you'll be the fifth.
Yeah.
Where same thing if you hang around with a bunch of dirtbags. You see these even with police officers, or you'll get there was a local preacher a few years back who was doing prison ministry and stuff, or not prison ministry, jail. He's going spending all his time with these halfway house folks and going to visit the jails, and worked with a lot of the women that had they were like a women's rehab clinic, but
Right.
the guy ended up cheating on his wife, and now this entire went from being a good dude to doing some terrible things. And this is a preacher who you expect to be living a good life and all that, but the people you surround yourself with, you become that same type of a person. So if you're in
Absolutely.
a position like that where you're helping others
Yeah.
that are not at the level you want to be at, make sure that you're finding a way to put that good information in your head and keep yourself tuned up.
Absolutely. So I've got to imagine having that resilience and having that experience, because our experiences, I believe, compounded and bring us to where we are today. And now you're supporting others doing this personal branding and doing the media and your interviews, which were amazing. My experience was amazing. And I really, really had a great time with it. You're so personable and you made it so easy to be with that. What was it that got you to where you are? I mean, you talked about, wanting to do this problem solving thing, but what was it about it that really intrigued you about doing something like that, especially with the strategic placements and all that you're doing and offering now is just absolutely. I've been talking you up to everybody.
I appreciate that. I know you've been making some good referrals and connections there. I really appreciate that. The
Absolutely.
thing that for me, what I figured out, I was this was actually a lot of this came from my own failure. As far as I told you, I built the cosmetic medical laser clinic, a pharmaceutical company, had a health and fitness nutritional supplement company that was supplying major gyms. We had a couple of different seven-figure companies doing extremely well financially.
Mhm.
But every time I'd start something, it was in a new industry. I'd get sick of one thing and then went, okay, I'm going to start this new whatever it is. Created a anabolic and androgenic post cycle therapy calculator that different hospitals and hormone replacement clinics had used. But each time I launched something new, nobody knew who I was because I had never built my personal brand as M. Curtis McCoy. So
Right.
they'd see some company, I'd build it up, sell it, or change industries or whatever it was. and have to start back from scratch over and over and over again. And
Mhm.
and then I figured out, after this had happened way too many times, I built the telecom company, Best Cellular. I owned three of the retail stores. We had licensees all over the country. Had employees all over, doing 250,000 customers a month hitting the website. So pretty successful business as far as that goes. I owned a retail store down in Hotchkiss, Colorado, and there was another store in Delta that about 30 miles or so away from us. And
Mhm.
one of my customers one day come in and told me it was actually my best friend at the time was born in Mexico. He was married, he's sending money back to the wife and kids in Mexico, and but he come in and he said, and we had noticed we were losing our Mexican clientele. We had a lot of the fruit workers and stuff that come in seasonally that would come in to
Mhm.
buy the international calling cards and do international money transfers. But we all of a sudden our Mexican clientele just started tanking, falling off, and we had people porting out, just leaving, going to these other phone services, and I
Right.
didn't know why. Finally, this buddy come in and he said, "Hey Curtis, do you know what they're saying about you?" I'm like, "No, what's going on?" He said, "Well, there's the store in Delta is saying that you don't allow Mexicans in your store, that you're a racist and don't allow Mexicans in your store." And I'm like, "What the heck?" I'd gone to this guy's daughter's quinceanera and
Yeah, yeah,
just kind of a crazy thing. But so I jumped in the car, told my employee to watch the shop, and or jumped in my truck, and I'm heading up, thinking on the way up there, going, okay, do I grab this guy by the neck, pull him over the counter, and let him know this is not how we do business? How do I make this work? Because this is killing my business and also my reputation. But I got in, he was with another customer. So I stand there looking around and I'm looking at prices on the wall. And actually, their international rates were a little bit better than ours were. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I asked the guy when I got to the front counter, I said, he said, hey, is there something I can help you with today? I said, yeah, I just came from Best Cellular, the Best Cellular store down in Hotchkiss, Colorado. Um, and before I said anything else, he jumped in and just started off with the rumors about, oh, that's a terrible place. You can't do business there. Did you know that guy's a racist and he won't let Mexicans in his store? And so, like, that's that's crazy, really. And so the more I acted surprised, the more he just laid it on, just getting more and more excited about what a dirtbag this owner of these retail
yeah.
stores were. And so, man, if this is true, I hope that guy gets hit by a car. I hope he goes out of business like yesterday. What a terrible person! If that's true, this is horrible. I said, well, I was just stopping by to see what you guys are doing here. Here's my card, and I put it on the counter and slid it across the table. I said, just said if you ever need help with anything, give me a holler. And he looked down. It says M. Curtis McCoy, President, Best Cellular. So he just kind of stuttered and mumbled, trying to figure out what to say. But I turned around and I almost think that was God telling me, unless this is your fault because you didn't build your own brand. You didn't. Nobody had any clue who you were, even though you owned the store in the next town over.
Yeah.
But what I learned from that was that if you don't build your own brand, somebody else will. Whoever talks the loudest, or whoever has the best story, is going to be the one that people pay attention to. So if you
Yeah.
haven't started building your personal brand, you need to do that today. Like you can't wait.
I love it because you, like myself, are very much into what I'm sensing and what I'm seeing is very much into learning rather than pointing fingers and making yourself others wrong and yourself wrong. It's like, what can I do with this? And your lesson obviously was going into the world of branding and how cool because you've done an amazing job with it. And now you're growing, a Newswire magazine. Tell us a little something about that, like a behind the scene insight to that, how that came up. Um,
Yeah, so we actually I had a guy on staff that had worked for me for a couple of years, just brain surgeon, smart developer. That young guy didn't like people real well. He'd work at the stores and stuff, but anytime I had a problem with any of the tech stuff, I would ask him, and he could tell you code like line for line, just out by memory how to build some program or build an app or solve a problem,
right.
programming computers or phones or whatever. Um, but so as we started looking, the Sprint and T-Mobile merger was negotiations are on the table, I actually consulted with the United States Federal Trade Commission on that merger. But as we
Mhm.
were, as that was looking like it's going to start shutting down all these mom and pop phone companies that had less than a few million customers, um, he said, "Hey, Newswire is for sale." So we checked it out. I'm like, I understand the press release company. I've used them. I've submitted Newswires, but um, he said, I think you should buy it. We had a big tax liability coming up where had to have some kind of a major purchase or you give it to Uncle Sam in taxes. So
Uh,
the more we talked about it, I'm telling him I don't want to sell. I don't want to own a press release distribution company. Had no interest in doing that, but he's like, I think it's a good idea. I think you should do this, and so he wanted to jump in and start working on it. I said, okay, if we buy this, this is your baby. You're going to start. You're going to figure out a lot of this stuff. I'll give you some lead here, but
Right.
um, and so he had the idea and did a ton of work helping us, and just kind of advised me on who to, ideas on how to get the thing going. As it grew, we ended up. I did an event out in Hollywood Hills with Rhonda Swan, who's a big PR expert. I think it's like 2018 or so. We did. Um, she's the PR expert that does all the stuff, all the PR for every celebrity and rock star and presidential candidate you could probably think of. But that was one, just being out there with her and figuring out again this PR thing. The more everything just kept coming back to every business I'd had, everything I did was based on the traffic comes by becoming known as the best, whatever it is you're offering there. I'm like,
Right.
man, there's so many good ideas, good businesses, good people who are wanting to help people and just they can't get their name out there or don't know how to. Like if I could
Mhm.
figure out how to make this work, that would be such a blessing for all these folks that are trying to help people. And it's a good thing being a privately held company where, with Newswire Magazine, Amazon Fire TV, the different platforms we're running. If there's I'll actually show you a screen share here. These different platforms. The cool thing is we get to work with leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, folks who are
Love it.
crushing it in life and business, and share their stories, and just really help them to get out there and become known as the person who can solve the problems that people are having. So,
Love it.
and we'll do the same thing with product reviews. We'll do products and services and different things that go a ton of different. I mean, everything from podcast hosts to folks like yourself, and we got a singer there. The lady that did the desk to bikini workout videos. Kind of cool
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
now we're just getting to really help folks who are doing good stuff and get their name out there.
I love it. I love it. I had never heard of Amazon Fire TV as a platform before. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, obviously, there are all things that make it the whole thing work together. Is that pretty much?
Yeah. So what we do with the TV show, the show, if you got a newer smart TV that's got Amazon Fire TV, the
Mhm.
show is called Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. But
Right.
on the TV series, we interview folks who are crushing it in life and business. And like here's Brandon Barnum, the owner of HOA.com, the homeowners association.
Mhm.
Jason Hennessy's a big time SEO guy. Got just a whole bunch of real cool folks. Here's you, Tranquilo Solutions, Karen Rudolf. Tawny Lee hosts the Healing Conference. Yeah, just go in and get to do these interviews with cool folks, and then as we're interviewing them, we do the Amazon Fire TV interviews for free, and that's kind of a way to connect with good folks doing good things, and then we'll do the full search engine optimized article. As you can see here, we're reading the one about you, and then
Yeah.
from there, that's where we use the TV show to meet people who are qualified to be featured in the magazine, and that
Yeah.
drives a massive amount of traffic who's already ready to do business with the person they just watched the TV show about.
Thank you so much for flashing that up there, because every time I see it, I smile now. It's like, bless you. I've had so many interviews and I've been on the NASDAQ billboard and all these things, but for some reason, that's the one that makes me smile. And I think more so, in all fairness, I love the community and the tribes that I've created that have lifted me up. But there's just something about that. I haven't quite pinpointed it yet, but I think it was who you were being, and it was almost like, I don't know, I don't want to say almost like it, I haven't quite pinpointed, but I was being so authentic. And you had a way of like drawing that out that just made me feel right at home. You're right at home. So when I see it now and I have my little metal thing there and I'm trying to I'm walking around the house going, where am I going to put it? So right now it's just leaning against something until
Do you have your magazine cover, the metal cover? That'd be cool to
it's
show
in
on
the
your.
other room. Yeah, it's in the other
Okay,
room.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of a cool thing.
it's
One
very
of the things
cool.
we do for podcast hosts and different
Yeah,
different leaders and stuff is actually I've got a couple right here.
his wall of fame. I love it.
That's like that. We've got a little
Yep,
printout,
yep,
like I sent to Karen, as a metal copy of the actual magazine cover. You can hang
love
on your
it.
wall, get a little space around the back. And
Yeah, it was so much fun to receive that and like look at it and see it like live. It's one thing to see it on the internet. It's another thing to see it, seeing it on the billboard was like, you know, but having it in my hand, there was just something very, yeah, it was very, very cool. So, what are the other things, the popular topics that you include? I mean, obviously, storytelling for influence, you're very good at doing that. You've really mastered. I mean, obviously, it took something, right? Trial and error and experiences. And tell us a little bit about that.
as far as the storytelling side,
Yeah, or wherever you want to go with it, because it's like all roads lead to back to what you're doing, and um, I just find it fascinating. So,
well, talking more about what you were talking about there with being featured on the billboard, Amazon Fire TV, Newswire Magazine, being on the cover, 100,000 plus readers a month reading your article, social media syndication,
yeah,
Instagram Reels, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all these different places that you're being featured, where it's an ongoing social syndication, is a huge thing where people who don't understand a lot of times the technical stuff, search engine optimization, there's a
right,
ton that goes in on the back end where you and I were actually talking about on your website how to
yeah,
optimize and create content that actually ranks. But
right,
we are we're a PR company, but we're actually we're more of a search engine optimization business that
okay,
happens to own a TV show and a magazine, and
okay,
have magazine contracts globally. And the thing with that is it's if somebody gets on when I've got a lot of times this happens with older philanthropist type guys and stuff that go, I don't really care about having an article published. Nobody sees them anyway. Where all these sites have the paywalls and stuff, so you pay a bunch of money to get featured in a magazine, and then send out the link to all your friends and family, and they get the
mhm,
link and they click it and they want to read the article about you, and then they can read the first paragraph, and then they have to pay some kind of yearly subscription to be able to get on the magazine, for to actually read your article.
right, right, right,
So we built ours where once a client pays, the goal is to get as many readers forever ongoing, just a continuous flow of readers through there where it continues to grow and compound. Because
mm,
now, just like if you had your podcast studio with your metal cover hanging in the back, every time somebody sees you on that magazine cover, that gives you credibility. But it's
right,
also same thing with when we're paying for billboard ads with your face on them. When they're seeing your magazine cover on billboard ads, they're
mhm,
seeing Newswire magazine. So it's really a cool thing to be able to. There's no additional cost as opposed to just putting up our logo. We can say, okay,
right.
here's clients who we love what they're doing. They're doing good stuff, and to be able to keep promoting you without ever charging you again. It's kind of a fun
It
thing there.
is. Oh, and I think possibly that's what I was attracted to as well. It's you go above and beyond. There are so many people in today's world, and especially in the circles that we're both in, where it's like, what's in it for me? I'm also like, what can I do for you? Like, how might I support
Yeah,
you? You're so one of the things, right away, it was like I really wanted you on the show because it's like you're so lifting all of your people on the Wall of Fame, which I absolutely love. But this way I get to lift you in a way of paying it forward, hopefully for you as well. Because like I said, I'm
I
talking
love that.
about you, but I'm talking about, up to everybody, and I'm showing everybody like, oh my God, like, look at this, and,
I
you
sure
know,
appreciate that.
but it was who you were being that had me be that for you, and why not? So why not? But
Well, and that's something when you're starting a new business or new venture, or maybe somebody who's just becoming a coach or consultant or whatever the industry is,
right,
you starting out with the helping others first, you'll probably have a harder time making ends meet starting out, where
right,
you'll spend a lot of time. uh, Let's say, for example, a roofer that's if you take two guys who one of them is out to close business, close leads, just pack out as many, pack out a schedule and sell as many roofing contracts as he can. I mean, I don't know anything about roofing except for we just had some hail damage here, but um, you get the guy that's out there just really crushing it, closing, making money on the sales, versus the
yeah,
guy that's out there sees little old lady out there, little old widowed lady that is trying to, he's wanting to help her. And he goes, listen, yeah, my roof's leaking. I can't afford to fix it. And so he goes back and just helps her out. Yeah, don't tell your friends, family, neighbors that I did this for you at cost, but let me help you.
yeah,
And then continue to help people like that. You'll have a harder time building your business. Originally, have a harder time making ends meet, but then as it kicks off, when you've got
yep,
that putting others first kind of the thing,
absolutely.
you'll get to where you have to raise your prices because you can't take on any more work.
Exactly. For me, I call that paying it forward because it
Yep.
comes back tenfold. For me, I believe, and I'm spiritual. So, for me, it's like, well, you give what you get. But then again, if you put out, you're going to get back tenfold. So why wouldn't I want to do that? And it makes me feel good that I'm supporting and serving others. So I
Yeah.
usually ask this question early on, and I got carried away with the conversation and just being here with you. Uh, what was the one pivotal moment that really awakened your potential? So for the listening audience, and they're sort of grappling at what they could, I don't want to say coulda, woulda, shoulda. That's not in my vocabulary, but somebody wants to shift into something more. What was that one thing that awakened your potential?
I won't actually share the story. I've shared it on other podcasts in the past, but it's really not a. I told you about growing up in a real abusive household and stuff. Um, what I figured out though is there's a European band had me. The kid reached out one day and asked me to. He emailed a bunch of motivational speakers, or
Uh,
emailed Tony Robbins and Gary Vee and some different guys, and I responded back, and he said he was looking to feature a motivational speaker, a quote in their in this song they're going to write, and he wanted to know if I would be willing to go to a music studio and record some kind of a motivational quote for him for them to write a song around. And
love
I
it.
said, actually, yeah, I'd be happy to. He's like, I don't think I can afford to pay you. He said, I'm actually sleeping in a friend's apartment right now. We're trying to get this music thing launched. And, um, but he goes, if I could pay for a studio if you need studio time. So I've actually got one. I'll just go in go in the other room and record for you. But so my quote that they wrote this song around was, said the difference between winners and losers is
Mhm.
losers use their past as an excuse. Winners use it as a reason to become something better. That's
Love it.
that's basically instead of the story, it
Yeah.
kind of boils down to that. You could either become, if you grew up with a bad example, you could either become that same example and say, I turned out just fine and I grew up like this, or
Yeah.
you could become something better.
Love that. Love it. Which sort of ties into the next question is, I call them pearls of wisdom. You sort of gave that. Maybe there's a little extra pearl in there. What is the pearl of wisdom that you would leave our listening audience with? You'd like to leave our listening audience with to make a difference in their lives?
I'll give you two of them. So the first one is if you're feeling bad about yourself, you're feeling depressed, you're not doing something that's really helping people right now. You're going to work, you're making good money, but you're not really feeling fulfilled in life. You think,
Mhm.
man, why am I here? What am I doing? A lot of people will say, well, you shouldn't feel bad about yourself. I would say that feeling of insignificance, of I'm not living up to my potential, is a sign, to be a God given sign that you are not doing enough. You were cut out to do more. If you are feeling like a loser, feeling like you're not helping enough people, go find somebody to help. That'll solve your problem. You start if you're feeling lonely or depressed or whatever, feeling like your life sucks, go help some people improve their lives. Your life will get better. That's the first one. And then also, I would say same type of thing. If you're looking in the mirror and feeling like I'm not good enough, why was I even created? Realize that you were created by the same God that created the entire universe. He created you in His image. So by default, you're pretty amazing. You just need to live up to the potential that He's put in you.
I love that. Absolutely. You're singing my juice. I love it. Well, first and foremost, I do want to thank you so much for taking the time away. I know you're getting busy, ready for your upcoming nuptials, and congratulations again. I look forward to hearing and seeing some photos. I'm sorry I can't come out and be with you because I would have definitely if I could have, for sure. But I thank you so much, Curtis, for your time and your energy. Your contributions have been amazing. And I'll think of you every time I look at my metal frame for sure. And I'm sure we'll be in touch further on
Yeah,
down
I
the
sure appreciate it, Karen. This has been absolutely awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Um, for our listening audience, first, well, as I said, first off, Curtis's information will be in the show notes. So if anybody wants to reach out, he'll have all of those contact informations in there. And the insights that you shared today is a beautiful reminder that transformation begins the moment we become aware and continues with those brave, badass steps that we choose to take. But you have to take into it because courage is not an easy thing to step into. It's a choice you make. And once you do, the other side is amazing. So for our listeners, remember the bridge from ordinary to extraordinary is built with small steps of change and big leaps of faith. You are more than you know. Keep showing up, keep rising, and keep awakening to your potential. If today's episode sparks something inside of you, let's explore what's next together and see what's possible. Type awaken in the chat, type your key takeaways. And if you have any questions for Curtis, as I said, either put them below as well or reach out to him directly. His information will be in the show notes. Till next time, make it an amazing day.